Most people think you need to spend $50,000 to get a truly extraordinary watch. But in 2026, that level of quality isn't limited to ultra-luxury anymore. Even compared to brands like Rolex, there are watches around $8,000 that deliver an incredible high-end experience. Today we're looking at 10 watches that prove you can get that luxury feeling for much less. Number 10. Rolex Explorer. Jaeger-LeCoultre 270. Feels like $50,000 in authority. There are $50,000 watches that do not carry themselves with the authority of the Rolex Explorer. E124 That observation is not a slight against those watches. It is a comment on how specifically and completely Rolex has refined the authority of this particular reference across 7 decades of incremental improvement until the current expression of it produces something that a room responds to before the wearer has said a word. The 36-cylinder case is correct. The black dial with its Arabic numerals at 3, 6, and 9 is correct. The caliber 3230 inside is Rolex at its most technically refined. And wearing it, the feeling is not of a watch in the $8,000 bracket performing above its weight. It is of an object that has so thoroughly earned its own identity that the price bracket becomes irrelevant before the first hour of wearing is complete. The Explorer does not feel like $50,000 because it is trying to. It feels like it because it simply is what it is, at a level of completeness that most watches at any price never fully achieve. Number 9. Omega Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch. Feels like $50,000 in history. History is the complication that $50,000 watches typically deploy as a justification. The provenance, the archive reference, the documented association with a significant moment that transforms a mechanical object into a historical artifact. The Omega Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch has more of that history than almost anything in the watch world at any price, and it carries it without performing it, which is the distinction that separates genuine historical weight from manufactured heritage narrative. The watch went to the moon. That fact is in the object, in the Hezolite crystal that was chosen over sapphire for specific technical reasons that a lunar mission demanded, in the manually wound movement that NASA required, in every element of the design that was tested against conditions that consumer watches are not designed to survive and that the Speedmaster survived. At its price, the Moonwatch delivers the $50,000 feeling of wearing something historically irreplaceable at a cost that makes the history accessible. The moon did not care how much the watch cost. The history does not either. Number 8. Grand Seiko SBGA 4013. Shunbun Spring Drive. Feels like $50,000 in craft. The $50,000 craft feeling has a specific and identifiable source. The moment you understand that what you are holding was made by human hands attending to an individual object rather than by a process attending to a production run. The Grand Seiko SBGA 413 Shunbun produces that moment at a price that $50,000 watches charge as a floor rather than a ceiling. The Zaratsu polished case is hand-finished by individual craftspeople to a standard that production polishing cannot replicate. The dial, textured to evoke cherry blossoms through bare branches against a gray spring sky, is produced through a process of such specificity and such individual attention that no two are exactly identical. The spring drive movement inside achieves 1 second per month accuracy through a mechanism that exists nowhere else in watchmaking. At its price, the Shunbun delivers craft of a quality that $50,000 watches from other manufacturers use to justify their positioning. The craft is here. The price is not $50,000. Both of those facts are simultaneously true, and neither cancels the other. Number 7. Audemars Piguet. Royal Oak 15500 ST. Feels like $50,000 in design legacy. The Royal Oak is one of the most significant design objects of the 20th century. Not just in watchmaking, but in industrial design broadly. A piece of work so formally perfect and so historically positioned that understanding it changes how you look at everything that came after it, and everything that tried to learn from it. The current 15500 ST expression of that design carries 40 years of refinement without losing the essential character of what Gerald Gente produced in 1972, which is either a remarkable act of design fidelity or proof that the original was so completely right that refinement was the only honest response. At its price, significant, real, and the subject of waiting lists that have made it one of the most discussed watches in the hobby, it delivers the $50,000 design legacy feeling because it is a $50,000 design legacy. The feeling and the price are honest with each other here, in a way that not all watches on this list can claim. The Royal Oak earns both by being what it is. Genuinely, historically, irrefutably, one of the most important watches ever designed. Number 6. Patek Philippe Calatrava. 5196. Feels like $50,000 in permanence. There are watches that feel current and watches that feel timeless. And then there is the Patek Philippe Calatrava 5196, which has opted out of both categories in favor of a third one that no other watch occupies quite as completely. Permanent. The Calatrava does not look like it was made in any particular decade. It does not reference any aesthetic movement or respond to any trend. It is a round case, a clean dial, a manually wound movement of exceptional quality, and proportions so carefully arrived at that changing anything about them would immediately and obviously be wrong. At its price, sitting at the lower end of Patek's range while carrying the full weight of the brand's incomparable positioning, the 5196 delivers the $50,000 feeling of wearing something that will be equally correct in 30 years as it is today. Most watches at any price age into obsolescence. The Calatrava was designed to be immune to that process. Wearing one, you feel the immunity. It does not diminish. It does not date. It is permanent. That permanence is the $50,000 feeling. It has a specific and correct price. Number 5. A. Lange and Söhne Saxonia Thin. Feels like $50,000 in German precision. $50,000 at A. Lange and Söhne does not feel like $50,000 spent on a watch. It feels like $50,000 invested in a philosophy. The specific, rigorous, uncompromising German watchmaking philosophy that treats every component of a movement as an opportunity to achieve a level of finishing that is not required for the watch to function, and is applied anyway. Because the craftspeople producing it believe that how a thing is made matters as much as what the thing does. The Saxonia Thin is the purest expression of that philosophy in Lange's current catalog. No complication to distract from the movement. No case feature to compensate for anything the dial doesn't achieve alone. Just a movement and a case and a finishing standard that makes holding the watch feel like holding an argument for the importance of craft that has been won before the first word of it is spoken. At its price, it delivers the experience of German precision watchmaking at its most intentional and its most complete. The $50,000 feeling is not about the number. Here, it is about the intention behind every component of the object that number purchased. Number 4. Vacheron Constantin Patrimony Contemporaine. Feels like $50. 000 in elegance. Elegance is the most misused word in luxury marketing, and the most precise word available when the object it is applied to has earned it through reduction rather than addition. Through the removal of everything that is not absolutely necessary until what remains is so correct and so complete that the word fits without any remaining distance between the claim and the reality. The Vacheron Constantin Patrimony Contemporaine has earned elegance. The case is slim to the point of seeming implausible, sitting on the wrist with a physical lightness that belies the quality of the materials and the movement inside. The dial achieves a simplicity so considered that every element on it appears to have survived a process of elimination that was ruthless about anything that did not contribute to the whole. The movement, visible through the caseback, is finished to a standard that makes the case for keeping it hidden seem not just wrong, but like a missed opportunity. At its price, the Patrimony delivers the $50,000 experience of wearing something that has resolved every question about what a dress watch should be. Elegance is not decoration. The Patrimony is the proof. Number 3. IWC Portugieser. Perpetual calendar. IWW5044405. Feels like $50,000 in complication. A perpetual calendar is the complication that makes you feel intelligent for owning it, not in the ostentatious way of a tourbillon, whose function is primarily visual, but in the quiet and daily way of a mechanism that tracks the Gregorian calendar across its irregular month lengths and its leap year cycles without ever requiring you to intervene. The IWC Portugieser Perpetual Calendar does this in a case of exceptional proportion, with a dial layout that presents the full date information: day, date, month, moon phase, year, with a clarity and a visual hierarchy that makes reading it feel effortless rather than educational. The movement inside is one of the finest perpetual calendar calibers in production. The Portugieser case that houses it carries a design heritage that IWC has been refining since the original 1939 reference. At its price, the perpetual calendar feeling, the daily sense of wearing a mechanism that understands time better than you do and never asks you to correct it, arrives complete and unhurried. That feeling, at $50,000, is what the complication promises. At the Portugieser's price, it delivers. Number 2. Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Ultra Thin Perpetual. Feels like $50,000 in technical beauty. Technical beauty is the category that exists between engineering and art, the space where a mechanism is so well conceived and so precisely executed that the technical achievement becomes aesthetically moving, independent of any decorative intent. Jaeger-LeCoultre occupies this space more consistently than almost any other manufacturer, and the Master Ultra Thin Perpetual is the watch where that occupancy is most evident and most accessible. The perpetual calendar mechanism is integrated into a case of astonishing slimness, the ultra-thin architecture creating a dial face that reads as impossibly composed given what it contains. A three-dimensional information display achieved in a physical volume that the complexity of its mechanism should logically prevent. The movement is a Jaeger-LeCoultre caliber of deep vintage roots and genuine manufacture pride. Wearing it, you carry the specific and daily pleasure of knowing that something extraordinarily complicated is happening in an extraordinarily thin package on your wrist, and that the result of that complexity is not weight or bulk, but the lightest formal watch in any collection that takes perpetual calendars seriously. At its price, it delivers the $50,000 feeling of technical beauty made wearable. Number 1. Grand Seiko SBGH 271. High beat $36,000. Feels like $50,000 and earns every comparison. Here is where the list arrives at its final and most considered answer. The watch that sits at number 1 not because it is the most expensive here, or the most famous, or the most historically significant, but because the combination of what it delivers and what it costs produces a gap between experience and price that no other watch on this list closes as completely or as honestly. The SBGH 271 High Beat 36,000 beats at 36,000 vibrations per hour. A rate that produces a second's hand so smooth in its motion that it appears to glide rather than step. And that requires a level of movement, finishing, and regulation that most manufacturers at any price achieve imperfectly. The Zaratsu polished case is hand-finished to the standard that Grand Seiko applies without exception. The same standard that outperforms Swiss production polishing in direct comparison. The dial carries the characteristic Grand Seiko texture that no photograph transmits, and that every first encounter with the physical object confirms is more beautiful than the image suggested. At around $8,000, wearing this watch produces something that I have felt in front of pieces costing $50, and that I have not always felt in front of them. The complete and settled conviction that what is on your wrist is genuinely, quietly, incomparably excellent. The $50,000 feeling. The $8,000 price. The gap between them is entirely yours.